So many theories, so little truth. So here are the facts. George Soros was born in 1930s Hungary to a Jewish family, avoiding deportation to a Nazi concentration camp by securing false ID and concealing his background. He later moved to London, where he studied economics, then New York, where he made millions, then billions, speculating on international markets, before turning his hand to philanthropy. In 1993, he launched his Open Society Foundations, which vows to build vibrant and inclusive democracies. It's now one of the largest philanthropic organizations in the world. So how has someone who's given so much time and money become the target of countless conspiracy theories? The answer lies in the land of his birth, Hungary, where Prime Minister Viktor Orbán needed an enemy.
So in 2015, George Soros published this think piece where he calls for a plan on how to handle the refugee crisis. Viktor Orbán takes this little essay and turns it into something very different, kind of like a giant master plan, the Soros plan, a plan to replace the European population with the immigrants. And they use this for political campaigning, and then there's even like political posters they created where they show George Soros and a bunch of allies in a photo montage cutting through a wire fence.
There was a campaign that was based on a series of billboards that actually shown George Soros with devilish eyes and with a slogan that said, "Let's not have Soros have the last laugh." All the messages that you saw on billboards that were coming from the Prime Minister and his staff were republished and promoted in the Hungarian media, in the pro-government media.
Valóban azt látjuk, hogy Soros Györgynek vannak céljai, van úgymond egy terve, ezt ő le is írta ezt ki.
The Prime Minister needed an enemy, and of course they needed someone from abroad, someone who would occupy Hungary, someone with foreign interests, someone related with international financial conspiracies. So they hired these two consultants, these two spin doctors, and they have actually helped him create the so-called Soros plan.
Those masters of spin were two Jewish Americans, Arthur Finkelstein and George Birnbaum. Finkelstein had made a name for himself, securing victory for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in 1996. Netanyahu repaid the favor with an introduction to Viktor Orbán. The pair went on to devise one of the most destructive smear campaigns of the 21st century, branding George Soros the billionaire bogeyman.
Arthur Finkelstein developed a specific political philosophy, an idea that we call Finkelthink. His politics was about the vilification of the political enemy. Finkelstein's idea was, what if we lift the curtain, and behind the curtain of these international elites, all of a sudden, there's this one figure. You don't fight against the Nazis, you fight against Adolf Hitler. You don't fight against Al-Qaeda, you fight against Osama bin Laden, right? And so George Soros could become the face of the enemy.
Nekünk nem a vérszegény ellenzéki pártocskákkal kell megküzdenünk, hanem egy birodalommá szervezett nemzetközi hálózattal, amit Soros György neve foglal össze, és ő testesít meg.
George Soros wasn't just an enemy for Viktor Orbán. What Finkelstein and Birnbaum formulated was a blueprint ripe for adoption by right-wing populist leaders around the world. Regardless of a country's specific socio-political context, Soros met the brief, a symbol of opaque global capitalism with a philanthropic front that tapped into deeply rooted anti-Semitic tropes.
He is still, for many governments in the world, the scapegoat, simply because, so to speak, he ticks all the boxes. In Turkey, Erdogan, he at some point in time referred to Soros as being the man who is going to destroy his country.
Meşhur Macar Yahudisi Soros.
We have in Italy Matteo Salvini, who many times spoke about the support that George Soros gave to organizations supporting migrants.
No, Soros è uno di quelli che vorrebbe l'Italia un campo profughi e l'Europa un enorme campo profughi perché a lui piacciono gli schiavi.
Even Nigel Farage from the UKIP party in Great Britain mentioned Soros in his speeches, and he made this direct link between George Soros and the flood of migrants in the Western European world.
If you really examine the money this man is spending across the whole of Europe, in America, to push his agenda, which is to get rid of the nation state and to encourage mass migration.
So we have it everywhere.
Fox News has played a huge role in pushing the idea that Soros was trying to replace the American population with people from abroad, and that Soros was hijacking democracy.
But his program for the past 15 years at least has been to make the societies he focuses on more dangerous, dirtier, less democratic. In other words, it's a program of destruction aimed at the West.
And what's interesting, you might have thought that it would stop when Trump left office. Actually, the opposite is the case. I think that here in the United States, these conspiracy theories are more potent and omnipresent than they were before.
So is there an end in sight? There is for Soros himself. Now 93, he's slowly stepping out of the spotlight, handing the reins of his philanthropic foundation to his son Alex. But as for what he's come to represent, the billionaire bogeyman, the shadowy scapegoat, the puppet master personifying all evils, now that has taken on a life of its own.
I think it's really hard to say what Soros' legacy will be. I went to the last CEU graduation and I was sitting there thinking, gosh, well, after Soros, who were people going to, who were they going to attack? And then Alex Soros walked onto the stage and I had this moment of oh, him, right, of course. So I certainly think that people will try to run the same script.
If you think of the Finkelstein and Birnbaum versus Soros fight, future historians will look back at this fight as the epitome of a giant, almost global political discussion where liberal politics goes against this new breed of post-liberal or illiberal politics. So it's like a global campaign because it's globalized political warfare now.